It's Aphelios. Yes, it is.
I expect it to be Aphelios. The thing that jumps out to me, ooh, that's surprising. The takeaway coming out from Beishong.
What else jumps out to you, though?
Is that Twisted Fate's open. Because that's a champion. Twisted Fate and Karma are two champions we see banned away from WE quite often. So, okay, this would make a lot of sense that BLG don't ban it and then take it away themselves. It's actually been something Fofo has kind of strayed away from. I think he's played it once.
Two games, actually.
So played 2 games. I think both were losses.
Yep.
And then from there on, BLG banned it against a lot of teams that do prioritize the Twisted Fate.
Flexes it in front of the WE's face while the Aphelios is going to be taken away, given over to Wings. This AD carry who's come in this split has played 7 games, now 8. Tied as his most played champion. While Fofo, we're just talking about this, would be a great takeaway from Teachama, as his Galio is already off the table.
I mean, if you're Teachama, I honestly expect you to just go towards the Karma.
Okay.
You already have the Graves. It's in your wheelhouse. You pretty much ignore the TF in lane. It doesn't really matter. He doesn't have the kill pressure on you anyway. So, yeah, guys, spoiler, Teachama will play Karma.
Ah, okay. Well, Leona most played for missing as well, so maybe we get the double whammy in the bottom lane, but there is still no AD carry.
The Thresh is open as well, which is obviously Missing's, high priority pick. Obviously, it was the thing we associated so much with the Aphelios in spring, so...
Does take away the flex potential, but of course you already said it. If you know it, then BLG knows it, that is Karma going mid.
That's the thing, right, is actually Missing can play the Karma. He can flex it, but when you think about his champion pool, you think about the bans, you think about the first pick Graves, there's no reason not to pick it up in the mid lane role. And I guess W are feeling the pressure of the Renekton ban that you talked about, because just to highlight again, Ornn 11 games, Renekton 10. His next most played champion is Mordekaiser at 2.
Yeah.
So WE clearly have a system where they need Morgan on one of these picks, or whether he just feels the comfort himself. They really value those 2 champions.
And I guess the other bonus for a team like WE is like, well, you know what we're going to play, but you can't ban it all away. You've only got 3 bans in the start. What do you focus on? Because you're going to leave something else open. And with the Ornn there and a comfort for WE for game number 12. Remember that Kingen is also a big Ornn player. It's his most played champion. So it is a slight takeaway while we see the Trundle for BLG and Lyric. We've got an interesting pick and ban phase. We need solo laners up towards mid and top for both respective teams.
Well, we need soul laners for BLG. We just got the Ornn, right?
Yep.
So the thing for BLG is I expected them just to ban out the Thresh, but the Ashe is another good ban. Obviously, Jomung's most played champion. Anything under that is, something like an Ezreal or a Kai'Sa. So I think BLG ban out Ashe Thresh. You can pick up support on 4. Like, BLG can pick up Thresh themselves, but Shinmo has not been much of a Thresh player this split. He's been way more about Nautilus and Leona.
Which is kind of funny, because for Shinmo, he was, a big Thresh player over in spring on BLG.
And Solo Q plays it quite a lot.
Yep. Has played it only once alongside his Tahm Kench. Nautilus, Leona most played. And Bard also sits there, which has been very prevalent in the LPL, while BLG... Their focus, however, is going to be taking away Jomung's champion pool.
I'm not too big of a fan of blinding Bard here when you have the Aphelios, something that does need to be a bit more catered towards, needs attention, especially when WE can still pick up some strong laning bot lane threat. So let's see if BLG disagrees with me. And they do. So instead, they do just want to go towards the pick potential. And Bard Twisted Fate is a bit of, a combo we've talked a lot about. You obviously have a ton of global engage. Now, is there a bot lane where W can just draft and have a ton of kill pressure? You still have the Thresh open, the Nautilus is there. You actually have a lot of options on the side of WE. The Kalista, all of this has kill pressure.
Yeah.
The Kalista they just showed, the Varus, any engaged support. So leaving Wings on his own will be a bit rough.
It's like they went down the list and BLG were like, well, we can take away the most play for Jomung, but the Varus was banned away previously, and Jomung's going to show us what he can do. This is his debut Varus game. Well, let's see that support.
And I'm not going to lie, I like what WE has so far. I think pretty much any hook champion you pick here is fine for the side of WE. You have the kill threat that I set out in the bot lane you could have if they blind pick Bard. You're going to have push in the mid lane. You have Beishong on a carry jungler. So WE not branching out. They're just going to get everything they want. And I mean,
it can be telegraphed, but, every single time, that's why we question WE get their drafts.
Ooh, and this would be nice because, right, BLG definitely don't want to go toe-to-toe in a 5v5 teamfight with WE, so picking something that could be more side lane oriented like the Kale is great to see. So once again, we're going with these 2 different styles, and it feels like this is what our drafts really do devolve into these days, is where you have one comp that goes more pick, one comp that is more about the front-to-back team fight. So WE are going to be about that front-to-back team fight. I want to see some kill pressure in the bot lane, especially with Beishang and Tichima playing towards Jomung. And then for the side of BLG, we just use the term 1-3-1 once we get to the mid and late game. But it's going to be really about answering that pressure in bot once you have the Destiny, and even trying to find picks around mid with the Bard.
Okay. Well, Bard and TF paired up again. It's nice to see Kingen on the Kale. This is his first game on Kale. Of course, this team shares top laners, and ADD was the one to pick it out before, but Kingen is that carry-style top laner. Kingen coming over from KT in previous years from the LCK. Funnily enough, ADD also from MVP back when they were in the LCK. And we've got top laners who have that kill threat. Interested to see if that 1-3-1 you talk about can be that late game answer towards WE.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting. I also want to see where Fofo goes, because we said, hey, probably wants to look to answer the potential plays that W are going to make on bot lane. You have the Aphelios, so you definitely want to give room for him to play the game, but you always could look for a Destiny top, especially after Kale picks up that first item, and try to start snowballing the Kale forward as well.
Sir? I'm not sure which way this is going to go.
Me either. We were talking about this before broadcast, right? Actually, right before this match, 5 minutes ago, we said, I feel like this could be a 2-0 in either direction, or even a 2-1 in either direction.
Yep.
Feels extremely close.
WE at least got a comp they're familiar with. WE got their comp that they wanted. Well, for BLG, some very strong elements the way this game goes. Let's run into game one. After getting warmed up with the Rogue Warriors series, I feel like people are going to say, well, this could be a slower game. But that might depend on BLG answering that bottom lane. Varus and Thresh, it's going to be Comet here, sir. So Jomung has decided that the on-hit is going to be Beishang.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting coming out because, you know, whenever we talk about, you know, these things don't scale well into the late game, things along those lines, it's like, hey, BLG do still have a bunch of very squishy members.
Yeah.
If you do get far enough ahead, you control vision in the bot side river around Drake. If they try to walk up, you know, Karma poke with Varus arrow as well as maybe throw out a collateral damage, someone's just gone. They're going to be in front of you, then they're not.
True. Meteor going to be that soul tank.
Yes, he is, and it does feel to me like BLG tried to bait out the Ornn, right? They banned the Renekton, and then they waited, they held off on jungle pick till 3, saying, hey, okay, you take the Ornn, we'll take the Trundle, so we feel very comfortable with that dynamic.
But again, Morgan's favorite champion, this is his 12th game of Ornn. We knew what we were going to expect, and BLG did as well. He talked about them baiting it out. We'll see if it's to their successes. Meteor's going to start on his blue, likewise for Beishang, while early trading level 1's always going to happen bot lane. We get frisky in our LPL bot lanes, just to say the least.
We definitely didn't in spring, which is nice to see that we do now.
Yeah.
I remember in spring where we would talk about bot lane matchups, and my answer to you guys would always be, it doesn't matter. We have Nautilus against Braum, Leona against Nautilus. Nothing's going to happen.
Everything neutralized each other. But
yeah.
Now that Varus has been, you know, nerfed with his poke, he's not as banned. We have a wider list of champions. That was a nice little trade onto Shinmo, but he did start with Caretaker Shrine, a more defensive option here.
Yep, I mean, that is what we standardly see on Bard here in pro play.
Not my solo queue again.
Well, that is good to
obviously
know.
it's not pro play.
Hysterics, but you know what else we don't see in your solo queue games? Teacherma playing the Karma, pushing out the wave.
He would if I ran into him in solo queue when he was stuck in flat. Well.
Hey, he's masters on Chaos.
I mean, he's a good player. Please don't hurt me, Teacherma.
Ooh, Meteor coming for the gank. This level 3. You have the pillar, so
yep.
I expect they wouldn't go for the kill. They're just going to look to try to force out a flash. And they just have to play extremely safe because, of course, Fofo can set up a gank quite well with the gold card.
We know how Karma pushes that backline wave, but Meteor still hovering around while Beishang's doing his red buff. So the ability to counteract, not going to be there for WE, at least for the next couple of seconds. So Scuttle for Scuttle, and Meteor pulls away.
Yeah, and right now we just have both teams, you know, going through a slower paced early game. Not too unexpected for the side of BLG, right? You need the Destiny to come out, and we even talked about this in the first series. We just have so many like game-changing ultimates right now in the meta. That definitely feels like when the game comes online, unless you have something like a Rek'Sai like we had last game, or you know, a Lee Sin with certain lane matchups in the game.
Especially when, you know, we see a lot of Ornns in the LPL hovering towards mid. you know, freeing their lane and then having an influence where
But
the Kale is a very different story.
Thing is, right, until you're level 6, you're not going to have much threat in the mid lane, but that's always a nice play I love to see by top laners, by Ornn players is, you know, just push the lane, go mid, and even if you're not looking for a kill, you can open Call Forge God on a lot of immobile mid laners, and they're going to have to blow flash.
And then open up the jungle route. We've got a Scuttle bottom side, we've got Scuttle top side. Game has just been farming up for now. There is a bit of a gold lead. I'm going to look across the screen to see where that's coming from for BLG. Could just be through the jungle right now.
Could also just be
CS lead.
through the TF, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Getting more gold.
Remember, wasn't that global? Or was that global at one point before my time? His passive?
His ult used to be his W or his E. Or something along those lines.
That was like season 1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I apologize if anyone knows that. That is way before my time.
That is the boomer knowledge that Mr. Asterix wouldn't have.
Who did you used to take it? No, was Zillion's global experience bonus? Wasn't it? Hey, you're the boomer. Hang on, you're the boomer. I'm not the boomer.
I know.
I'm like the ender of the LPL, you know?
What?
Without the weird champ.
What's the ender of the LPL?
Ender is a zoomer, you know, and over in the LEC, I think everyone else is the boomer. I don't know. Do you think that's an insult, calling someone a boomer?
No.
Okay, good. Well, they're boomers. That's great. Just like you.
I mean, it's just relative, right? I mean, I guess compared to you, I am a boomer in League of Legends.
Even though you're younger than me.
Yes.
But you've done so much more.
You know who else has done more than both of us?
WE.
WE taking that dragon.
Yeah, bringing it back to the game. Let's be structured casters. To be fair, we stay on track pretty often when we cast together.
To be fair right now, we're farming. We're clearing minions.
Yeah.
We're killing cannons.
We don't have to justify ourselves.
We're doing something.
You have a good track record. I've got a mixed track record.
We have a bunch of fairy charms coming out in a bunch of different
we do, actually. We got a serrated Dirk and a fairy charm from Jolmung as he helped pick up that dragon, had a good back timing, and decided.
It does feel nice to sit on a few fairy charms if you don't do that in any champions you play.
Cost efficient as well. Sells for, I think it's 70%, 80% of it.
It feels really good. So
it's 125 to buy, 88 is what you get back for selling. Done it many times. Karma player, by the way.
Asterix with the obscure knowledge that
and I'll give you nothing else this game. As Teacher Mark, he did pick up 2. Of course, we'll be going for the Athene, so already has the Fiendish Codex to build towards it. And was able to push out the lane, drop a ward deep towards the enemy side of the jungle, while control ward Fofo in the same side. Actually, some really good vision set up by BLG in this game. You can see upwards towards River, that control ward, just spot out Bei Sheng if he comes towards mid.
And let's just point out that, you know, Fofo is level 7, does have the Destiny, but BLG are not feeling forced to make any proactive plays. I actually feel like you can save that Destiny for either if someone on WE really mispositions or to react to a play that WE are making and just shut that down because, again, you have the Aphelios, you have the Kale, you even have the Trundle against the Ornn, so you feel fine going into the later stages of the game. BLG feel fine to play a reactive game of League of Legends.
Yep.
It's WE who do need to feel the fire under them to start making plays. And I wonder if they're just going to keep waiting for dragons to respawn and just look for those and see if BLG will contest, since they definitely have this composition that wants to go for these team fights. Or now that Jolmung is level 6, they have the Chains of Corruption in the bot lane. Sure. You could have Teachermon just hover bot side and try to find one of these 2v2 kills in bot lane, but Wings does have Cleanse.
There is still a lot of damage there to poke down the double longsword on top of the already serrated Dirk for Jolmung. And I have to say, props to Wings, who is keeping up in CS against the Varus Thresh lane, is good so far. We know how dangerous and how annoying it is to lane against that range. But for Wings and Shinmo, they get the shove out before Jolmung and Missing return. Get a bit of vision back in this river while we were looking towards topside. I think Herald was started, but then Bei Sheng pulls off. As priority was on topside for Kingen, who has range now that he's past level 6.
Still just getting a bit slower pace of game. Looks like Bei Sheng's just going to go and pick up his red buff. I mean, for BLG, you don't need to take Herald, so you do have push and topside as we can see, but
stopping it is good.
Exactly. Like, the thing is, for BLG, they are just completely fine to look for this. For WE, I think looking for the swap is fine. The thing with Bard on the map, though, is We see that Bard counters the Herald swap. Because, you know, you swap for Herald, you leave your AD carry down in the bot lane. Sure, you get Herald, you drop it somewhere. Tempered Fate comes out, and guess what? Losing that golden experience really equaled out to nothing.
And when you have an Aphelios on your team, the quick pushing turrets also applies there as well. So a lot of turret plating available after the fact. As you talk about the swap, WE make it first here. Bottom lane left alone. Jolmong and Missing are only posturing now going back bot.
So let's remember, WE do ultimately lose out on something in this, and it's Teacher Ma loses out on golden experience. It doesn't matter too much because it's a karma, so I like the slight adaptation where you have Jolmong come and pick up the minions in the mid lane, going to come back bot, not lose out on anything. So now our eyes are going to be on where Beishang uses this, and if it is mid or bot, we've already mentioned Shinmo is the counter to that play.
You wouldn't look towards the top side.
That's what I'm wondering, because you don't really want that gold, you know, I guess you could just keep it on yourself on the Graves, but opening the top lane turret doesn't really mean anything. But do you do that just to stay out of range of Shinmo?
Or at least give Morgan a little bit of help. But of course, Kingen, range now available, means he can push against that. The Cutlass was there, a good trade onto Morgan, who's going to back away. Beishang, meanwhile, with that Herald we were just talking about, is going to get spotted out here on a ward. Again, really good vision placement from BLG in this early game. But they know Beishang's towards the bottom lane. And you can see everyone moving down. And with the wave pushed out mid, Fofo has ulti.
I mean, this is what WE need to do, is they need to look for these dragon fights like we talked about. They're really oppressive if they can get vision set down first, throw out those Qs from the Varus as well as Teacher Ma. They have a ton of bursts coming out. They really want to accelerate the pace of this game forward.
Gripping up. Shinmo is going to be the one to face check. Things are getting smacked down on Summoner's Rift right now. Missing into the rift first for the rest of WE. It starts off nice from BLG just to peel away and not contest.
I don't think BLG should contest this one. If Meteor wanted to look for a steal, put himself at risk, that's one option, but at the same time, then you're just going to give WE a free chance to use Herald somewhere and unlock the map even more. So I think BLG made the right choice with how their composition is panned out.
Just remember that WE already on 2 dragons, 2 more to go towards that soul, and it is a Mountain Soul with an Ornn on their team. We talked about the front to back and pick and ban, and how through it's 80 carrying Jolmong and Beishang that have space to move.
The great thing though is, if there is, like, let's assume worst case. Let's say for whatever reason they lose out in the next 2 mountains and lose out on soul.
Okay.
There aren't 2 better carries to verse all those resistances and shield than the Kayle and the Aphelios. Like, they will still just burn you down in late game team fights.
That's true. Well, we'll see, because we've got 4 minutes to wait for this dragon. Note that Fofo actually up at about 1,000,000,001 gold. How much are we looking at there? 900, or 800, sorry. Fofo farming really damn well, ahead of the clock with Rod of Ages ticking up.
Yep, that is the combination of the passive gold he gets as well as just winning in CS.
And you talked about how Teacher Ma would miss out on something going towards Rift Herald. Well, that is partly why he's down in CS.
Yep, that is a whole wave, so again, that's almost the whole advantage it looked like.
A lot of talk as to what Herald sacrifices as Fofo backing in a strange position. Gold card is going to be here. Beishang has the Herald and still needs to put it down. It's running out.
Yeah, we've talked about this many times about how using it against global mids can be such a strong thing, so I wonder if they'll opt for it mid, and again, our eyes just need to stay on Shinmo, and if he's able to get that Tempered Fate off.
I also want you to know, while we're talking about interactions with lanes, Kingen's still pushing this in, and a dive at the ready with Kayle ulti available, and the first item for Kingen. Meteor spots him with a good lens.
And Trundle ulti as well, right? Morgan will not be tanking.
Destiny used. Morgan with the Bellows Breath. Not in time. The cone against the wall flashes first, but now they'll re-engage with the heal up from Teacher Ma. WE are in, and Fofo against the wall without mana, but he gets first blood, secures it onto Morgan, who overstays his welcome with the smoke screen, nailing down King, and Beishang will get out, but BLG, first blood on the board.
First blood at 13 minutes. Actually, a bit of a slow one, and I mean, yeah, nice play coming out from BLG. BLG want the slow pace of the game. The tempo does feel extremely slow, so they are definitely fine with this. Kingen gonna just get more gold. Morgan now should be forced to use his TP back to lane.
And Beishang has to use this Rift Herald because it's running out. And with Fofo mid, might be a bit unfavorable.
Yeah, and we already see, look at your mini-map. Shinmo is heading mid now. Shinmo knows his job. He's going to be there to do it.
Ult it.
And it goes back to that opportunity cost we talked about of, hey, someone has to lose out on something for a Herald against a Bard team.
Do it.
Look at that. Look at the confidence back.
And 25 gold to Fofo plus his passive on that too.
So exactly. So who did the Herald help? Who did the Herald help, Hysterics?
It gave it to BLG.
Exactly.
Next time, just give that next Herald over to them. Do the same thing once more. As Jomong going to be the advantage. He misses out on that last bit of turret plating, unfortunately. He's got his first item too, but a cheaper build with the next serrated Dirk in hand. And for BLG, just to reiterate on your point, very favorable game so far.
Ooh, in round 2 of the dive.
It's a level 11 Kale, so we're going to start spreading the wings and flying away. Morgan is 2 levels down as he's getting run down by Kingen. This top lane is dumpstered.
Yeah, I don't know if W can really accelerate the pace of this game as much as it feels like they need to. BLG have done such a good job, and this is what we criticized them for in the first few weeks. I remember, I think it was their first series, where they drafted this late game team fighting comp, had like Maokai, I think it had like an Orianna and an Aphelios, remember? And they TP in for the first Drake, go for the fight, and they all get ace. It's like, guys, what are you doing?
And you know what's changed since then?
Meteor.
Yeah.
Is there excited? No, I know the answer.
I know, we set up the segment. We knew what we were talking about. Just to reiterate, their fate is in their hands, as you so rightly put it. BLG can make playoffs. It's up to them. So at this point, a good sign here in Game 1 against WE. They are still 2,000 gold up. There is another Herald coming up with topside broken down. This will be interesting to see with a 50 CS lead on the Kale if BLG feel confident enough that this is a window they can exploit.
That's what I want to see, because so the map dynamic has changed. BLG now have a pressure point that they can play through.
Yep.
They can just constantly, you know, Kingen's going to constantly have push. He's going to be able to roam over first regardless. They can go for the same place we saw earlier, the 2-man setup in the side lane with Fofo ulting in to guarantee that kill as well. So I want to see if they start contesting, you know, 4v4, 5v5, or if they're going to go more like Rogue Warriors last game and live in that side lane.
Hey, that'd be fun. 5 seconds till the Dragon's up as well, and that's where BLG are going to start. Walking forward, this is a stinger on Kingen as well, with ulti that hasn't been used this game, and Wings also has the Infinity Edge as the first item of Aphelios.
Let's keep in mind that Morgan also has had the time to walk to this fight, so this is a 5v5 right now, but Fofo is still hitting the bot lane turret.
Yeah, he has Ghost and Destiny to get to this play. WE moving into the pit. BLG's AD carry not here. So, kiting back, hoping for a steal smoke screen down Destiny. Their chain corruption doesn't connect. Walking forward is Meteor to tank this up. Wings now joins on in. That's a 4-man tempered fate onto WE's frontline. Morgan is not tanky because he's so far behind. He's running away into a wall. The poke doesn't connect, but BLG forced them off a Dragon, and they've got low health bars on WE to kill them all. One down in Morgan, and guess what? BLG will keep running forward.
And this goes back to that picture of you before the game where you're just constantly waiting for BLG to do something, because BLG thrives in these slower tempo games where they have the time to make the decisions they want. They have the time to, you know, bring members into the fight, scale up. We saw that happen once again, and well, we see this Kale is coming online. BLG are starting to stack up the Dragons, and they are going to opt into this teamfight style, which is definitely going to depend a lot on how Shinmo hits these ultimates to give room for BLG to reposition so that both Kingen and Wings can deal all their DPS.
Lyric Kingen is more than online. He's a level 12 Kale at this point in the game. Watch it again.
Yep, tempered fate after the Kale ultimate goes down. And yeah, I want to watch how much DPS Kingen deals. And you said it right there, just constantly dishing out damage with all of these autos. Great Pillar comes in to allow Fofo to find the stun and set up the kill. I mean, BLG, I think getting Dragon was the more crucial part of that point, especially up against a lethality Varus. He's not going to deal any damage to this team later on.
To be critical, Wings missed his ulti because Shinmo ulted as the Kale ulti from Kingen came down, so it wasn't the cleanest part from BLG, but it was still all they needed. As we talked about the tempo being slow for BLG with a 3k gold lead in the early game. When they have the 1-3-1, when they have the late game, they didn't even need to answer bot because WE didn't go bot. And their bot lane, individually in the 2 versus 2, never found a massive lead. Jomong still only a couple of CS ahead of the late game scaling Aphelios. As Wings dodging away from that, we're actually setting up for the Rift Herald play.
I mean, Kingen is extremely far ahead of Morgan, like you talked about. We have every ultimate up on both sides, it looks like. Flash is up as well, so Fofo, he's got Destiny. Yes, he does.
Getting started by WE.
Yes, it is.
And at 4K,
True.
Meteor's ready to go in. Destiny's being procced. W want to get this and get out. Call the Forge God being used. Meteor waiting around for the steal. The Death Center's there and he takes it. And WE now in the middle of river with no direction. Fofo with the gold card to stop anyone from escaping while missing. Just left on an island, flashes away, but the poke from Wings secures the kill. BLG through the magical portal through the center of the earth. While Beisheng manages the quick draw away. Fofo flashes over. The confidence from the solo laners as King and Slow but still has the ulti. Rift Herald in the back pocket. And BLG take another.
And BLG playing it so well. Fofo with the Destiny, as you talked about, Meteor securing the smite onto that Herald. And I actually really like what BLG did here. Because BLG having a completely different answer to how to beat W than LGD did. Because LGD just really focused on that mid lane and went toe-to-toe with them. BLG said, hey, we're going to ban out the Galio, we're going to take the TF ourselves, and guess what? We know Teacher Mouse is going to go in the Karma. We know for sure it's going to happen, so they're going to go this late-game teamfight scaling style. We're just going to pick champions that scale better.
Because the only part of W, it's not just the draft, it's how they play their game is telegraphed as well. That's how we started off our segment. And we're being very critical. I just want to quickly touch on the fact that Meteor did not get the Herald. That's the only bad part of that play. Didn't pick it up. That's why our observer was focusing there. But back to the WE conversation of BLG knew how WE were going to play out this game one. And 20 minutes in, feels like WE are fast running out of any options at all.
You give up those, and yep, there we go, showing it once again.
No.
I love the animation of the characters running around off our screen.
Because the eye turns towards the person closest near. And gone.
Well.
Unfortunate, but whatever. I don't think BLG cared, to be quite honest.
I don't think BLG needed. I mean, wouldn't it have been nice? Is it a massive error? Yes. But does it matter in the grand scheme of this game? Not really.
The scheme?
Scheme.
The massive scheme.
Gotta put the emphasis.
Oh, yeah, okay. Shinmo, base checking here. Magical journey taken. Beisheng will not follow that through. And Beisheng going to be tested here in this game as the Graves, well, already has been. 5k gold behind is WE at this point with another mountain spawning. And the great part for BLG is they have 3 more mountains to collect.
And they have a 2-item Aphelios.
That
so,
they do.
He's going to hurt.
Meteor's already unkillable on that note too.
Yes, he is. I mean, and it was so great to see how the draft panned out. At least the choices they made. I still think coming out of draft, I liked what WE had more for LPL. Because it makes sense to how we play the game, but WE able to slow down the pace of the game to make this draft that I was highly skeptical of work.
I think also, if Jomung was on here, it'd be a very different situation.
That is true,
because he's not going to be scaling up as well.
Not at all against, like, the map countered Jomung this game.
Against Mountains as well, right? As the engage starts missing, wanted to kick it off, but he's against the wall. Call the Forge God used, but once again missing, drops as the Aphelios ult point blank into Jomung's face. And BLG is so far ahead at this point that WE, with a comp that should be rolling, are slipping.
Yeah, BLG are 7k gold up, guys. They're even just going to completely ignore this dragon, take mid-turn, and turn towards the Baron. God, that was a bit of a tongue twister.
It really was. Fofo getting mid-turret in the process, getting zoned away by Teachama, but this level 14 TF doesn't care. The Baron, as you mentioned, is right there for the tanking. And Kingen, level 14 Kale, should be close to 15. I think Morgan's died so many times this game that he's 3 levels behind at this point. WE like, yay, the dragon. But you know what, BLG, a bit global here, Lyric.
Yeah, Kingen also has TP, so very easy to follow up. They're going to force these guys off. Shinmo sadly doesn't have ult, so not able to secure these into kills.
And Kingen is level 15, and he can 1v2, 1v3. Beisheng, why are you running into him? Death Sentence connects, but he still has the ulti. Kingen running forward, flashes on in, into Beisheng, wants the team, doesn't care if he dies. 4 versus 5 as the dragon has been ignored. And for BLG, they're going to be thinking about whether to take this fight.
I do want to say that was a mistake from Kingen.
It was.
I feel like he pulled the trigger too soon, not realizing that Morgan was TPing right in the middle of his whole team, so Morgan could have died.
But BLG want to take a 4 versus 5 because Wings is another Fed member.
Yeah, and all of DWE right now is low. Okay.
Fofo Fed as well. Dragon being contested. Subjugate was used on the backside.
WE no smite.
Doesn't connect. BLG have it though, and the Dragon's going to be taken. Gold card connects. Low health bars. Kingen coming up in 10 seconds but doesn't have TP as Meteor's going to escape. Meanwhile, though, these Fed members are 2v5ing. Aphelios time, baby. Flashing forward with the triple. Penta on the horizon, but running away is Teachima. He'll deny it. The poke once more. Jomung was close, but he'll be given over to Fofo, and that's an easy clap from Team BLG.
And Wings, a total bro, doesn't care about his KDA, just wants to guarantee as many kills as possible to get this wave to push forward. And I mean, let's be honest, this game has felt done for the past 6 or 7 minutes.
Yep.
WE had windows where they needed to make plays. We talked about the bot lane setup. They didn't find it. BLG got the items they needed. They snowballed this Kale so hard.
BLG once again with Meteor looking absolutely exceptional. While the solo lane is hit down mid, while Inhibitor Turret is threatened bottom lane with this Baron buff. That still has a minute 10 left on it, and we're at an 11k gold lead at 24 minutes in the game.
And this was very surprising to see. The thing I want to highlight is Beishong doesn't have Smite, so free Drake for the side of BLG. I am so surprised that Wings and Fofo just walked forward, dish out all this damage. Great gold card coming out. And Wings doesn't even do anything. He's just autoing. He has the range to do it. Flashes in aggressively. Sadly isn't able to hit that one and pick up the Penta like you talked about. Ults right here, sets up the kill for Fofo, and ultimately that's all that matters.
Well, Fofo picks it up. Fofo's had a great game, so he deserves a bit of love as well. But 5-0-4 on Jomung, sorry, Wings. Used to seeing Jomung on the Aphelios. Wings is that new 80 carry that has joined BLG this split, and we said he's a bit fading into the background, which this game is what WE have been as. You know what? Kingen's almost 16. Let's just watch the Kale in the background as no one can get through Meteor. And Fofo with another kill. WE walking into danger. At this point, they shouldn't be walking anywhere, but what can they do? Get the Fate flashed away from, and what's up next? Well, not a dragon, so BLG can walk mid.
Yes, they can just keep going. They have a 5v4 right now. The sad thing, right, is they don't have any great engage, but one pillar on a member of WE goes into this.
Teachima, yep. Kingen picks up the kill, and we've been monkering over this Kale since he was level 6. Now Kingen a step away from that ultimate point, and Morgan again has had an atrocious game here in game number 1. As a step forward for BLG will mean the end of the game. Death Sentence Connects and WE are just giving up at this point because there's nothing they can do. Kingen hit that 16 point, and now I'm so ready for BLG to run it home.
And they're going to be able to do that. 2 members down. They can push. Oh,
forward.
Flash.
Yeah. At this point, what are you going to wait for? 4-1 and 4, 4-0-7, 6-0-6, 0-0 and 12 for Shinmo. A good game 1 for BLG to say that they are not out of the playoff race just yet.
Odd Kingen rooting his KDA at the very end, but you know, big props to BLG. We came out of draft. I said, hey, what W has looks a bit more simple, looks a bit more straightforward. They have the tools there. They couldn't execute. BLG made sure they couldn't execute. We saw Meteor just kind of shadowing